I get ideas when I'm driving. These are going to be posted over to my YouTube channel in the third generation novel brainstorming section. Bunch of real life things have inspired the book. It's from 1968, roughly 1968 to 2008, roughly. And small town in Texas, 3 generations. And some of it is flat out, straight out of real life. Some of it is straight out of certain individuals with the names changed and telling their story, good and bad. That particular person's story, except changing their name. And some of it is conglomerations, or whatever you call it, where you put story here, there together, and it's historical fiction. It's fiction, but it's nonfiction. If you hear what I'm saying, it's kind of biographical, but not really. And names are changed to protect the guilty. Here's a thought that just came to me while I'm driving. This is a really interesting concept for a community of believers to ponder. 2 churches in a town. There's an awesome female Sunday school teacher, elder's wife, who teaches the women and the youth, and the women and the youth and the women's groups. And then there's a soft teaching Baptist church across town, and with the easy believism and come forward and be saved and repeat these words after me so you can go to heaven and invite Jesus in your heart, that whole thing. That's soft gospel stuff. But on the surface, they're Baptists, they're male teachers, they're, no women in the pulpit, just overboard with that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying. Okay, so the storyline would be like this. The non-denominational church across town, very biblically sound, male teacher, male pastor. And the pastor dies. And they are on board with the search committee and looking around and this, that, and the other, but the pastor dies. And he's solid. The congregation is solid. But there's nobody in that congregation that can teach. Let's say it's a small church, big church, whatever. But there's nobody in that congregation that seems to be equipped to teach like the now deceased former lead pastor was. They try a young youth pastor man, and he just can't make it. They bring in some visitors occasionally. They form their search committee. They're looking out. Look this up, 9marks.org. The qualities of a solid church. Okay, so the storyline goes like this. You got this church across town, the Baptist church, and on the surface looks like they're doing everything biblically sound, including not having women in the pulpit. Okay, this other church, non-denominational, can't find a pastor after the pastor dies, having trouble. Youth pastor can't cut it. Bring in visitors, they can't cut it. They got their search committee going, and then everybody comes to a conclusion kind of in the same day when this deacon's wife gets up and does announcements and then prays, and they go, she's going to be our pastor. And the people go, no, we can't have a female pastor to have authority over men. And they go, okay, don't let her have any authority, but have her teach, because she knows the word. She's as good or better than the deceased pastor. She knows scripture forward and backwards. She does not sugarcoat. She is right down the line, perfect, except she's a woman. And I understand what Paul said, and I understand what God does and what God did about women not having authority over men in the church. I get that. But then the scripture that says women should stay silent, I think that part is kind of iffy here. Did Paul say that's from me or from God or whatever? The woman should stay silent. This is kind of slippery slope maybe for some of you. Should she Was that a cultural thing? The whole thing might have been a cultural thing, but I don't think so. Women having authority over men and exclusively teaching the men, I think there's a reason for that. The sexual reasons, all kinds of reasons, right? Okay, so that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying in this scenario, in this fictional novel, that this lady meets all the qualifications except for chromosomes, right? And so this congregation starts letting her, preach. And some people leave the church because of it. And it causes a stink in town. And then she comes to the point of saying, you know what Paul said is actually true. I don't really have authority over any of the men in this church, but I've been called to teach and just continue. The sermon series that pastor who passed away was teaching. She picks it up right where he left off, verse by verse, expository. Look that one up, expository preaching, and she just continues. And people are going, man, it's as if he's still preaching, except she's a woman. So when I criticize a female pastor, I generally don't ever do that. I do look at what Paul said about authority in the church, though, and I don't want to say I'm iffy on what Paul said, what God inspired him to write, but in this scenario, in that novel idea, I'm going to try to type it up this evening. A whole nother chapter, storyline, that in this case, I can imagine where this story will go. But backtrack to the other church across town. Biblically sound on the surface, doctrinally, what they type for their doctrine looks good. Male pastor, blah, blah. They don't let Beth Moore books come into their bookstore. Okay. Which you shouldn't, by the way. He preaches about Jesus Calling. It's maybe not a best book devotional to read because, Sarah Young, is that her name? Yeah. So all that to say this. I look forward to typing this because currently, right now in my life, this is a topic, but it's the false teaching topic. It's not the male or female teacher. I can have a female lady on a podcast right now tell me some biblical truth, and I go, she's right. She doesn't have any authority over me. She's not my primary teacher of the word, but she can say something that I say, yep, she's exactly right. Allie Beth Stuckey, not so much her, but Allie Beth Stuckey, and then Alyssa Childers. I'll put links to in the comments. No, I'm not putting this. I am putting it on Facebook, but I'm putting it straight onto YouTube. So, third generation brainstorming section over there. Love you guys.